All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are now in, what week is it? 5, right? So we have a really special event that's coinciding with our class today. And I have my notes here because I want to make sure I capture everything. So really excited that you all are here. Don't worry, we'll do attendance at the very end. I'll put up the code real quick and you can jot it down quickly. But before I introduce our esteemed guest, I wanted to explain why we organized this presentation to coincide with our class time. As you obviously know, this is an introduction to cultural anthropology course. We're critically engaging with many themes in this class, and I know we're kind of going through them really quickly, but we were talking about concepts of culture, historical memory, globalization, race and racism, and a lot more that we're going to get into in subsequent weeks. And this week is our globalization week. So we're talking about globalization from an anthropological perspective. And it would be a failure on my part and on the part of instructors to not facilitate ways for you and us to connect course material with what is going on in our present moment, right? That's the point of being on a college campus. I know many of you are aware, and I'm sure some of you are maybe active in campus organizing or community organizing around what's happening in Palestine and what's happening in Gaza, where Israel continues to wreak its genocidal campaign. As of today, Israeli attacks have killed over 42,000 people, including over 16,000 children, with countless more missing or dying daily due to poor living conditions and lack of access to healthcare. In addition to what's happening in Palestine, over the past week, we have witnessed over 550 people killed in Lebanon by Israeli attacks. And I share these statistics with you not to overwhelm you with numbers, but to remind us that all of our struggles are interconnected. Anthropologists that I admire and whose work I look up to are deeply invested in making these connections across global struggle and across liberation, and also connecting us to the humanity that's at the heart of them, right? So that's why we put on programming like this. That's why we invite speakers. That's why we go out of our classroom, not literally for today, but bringing outside into our classroom. So in that spirit, I'd like to introduce you all to our esteemed guest and speaker. And before that, this event is hosted by the Center for the Study of Muslim and Arab Worlds. That's a center on our campus. It's a center that has, I forget how many faculty members that are on the board, but 12, yeah, around 12 faculty members. And we put on a lot of events and programming. We have a lineup this year that's coming up, a film series where we're going to be showing documentaries and film that give us context for understanding what's happening in Palestine. And it's going to go through the whole year. So this semester and next semester. So keep an eye out for the events that are coming out through the center and find ways to get involved with organizations that are also affiliated with the center, like Students for Justice in Palestine, which is a newly chartered organization on our campus this semester. So now on to our presenter. Ahmad Nabil is a Palestinian Jerusalem-based visual artist, practitioner, and researcher in the fields of Arab and Islamic mythology and paranormal phenomena. He focuses on their relationship to land and natural resources, as well as their integration into intangible heritage for the preservation of land and collective memory. In 2015, he founded the Fiction Council in Jerusalem, which I'm so excited to hear more about today. The title of his talk today is Imagination in Times of Crisis, the Fiction Council as a Nexus of Scholarship and Documentation. So without further waiting, please welcome Ahmad Nabil.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is
not moving forward.
no, it's not. Yeah, it's not that. I'm just trying to focus in the two of them. Yeah.
Is the tech person in here? What's his name?
problem at my end. Oh,
I'll do these screens back.
yeah.
There's always some technical difficulties.
So, thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor and a pleasure to stand before you on this special event. Allow me to thank the Center for the Study of Muslim and Arab Worlds for providing this place and having me. And I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Ahmad and Mathis for making this happen as well. And all of you for attending. I know that there is attending at the end, last 2 minutes, but I wish it is worth it. This beautiful gathering, and you would be, I don't know, incited or inspired by how imaginative and ambitious Palestinians are throughout their lifelong journey. That is not 100 years ago, but thousands of years ago. Before I start, I would like to have a moment of silence to honor the innocent lives that were lost in the unfolding genocide in Gaza and the outbreak in Lebanon as well. Yeah, that would be shared. So, I don't know. I know that you're not familiar with the Fiction Council. It's like the first thing that comes to your mind is just, what is the Fiction Council? So basically what I'm going to do is to take you on a journey to understand what is the Fiction Council and what is this all about. Okay, this guy that comes overseas just to tell us, okay, oh, you have a Fiction Council, yay. So I think we'll get to that in a bit. So I want you to be a little bit patient, and let's roll in. The Fiction Council, so basically we're having the title of Imagination in Times of Genocide. So, and then we got the Fiction Council as a nexus of scholarship and documentation. This is something academic, like this is an academic title, but we'll get to something more interesting along the way. So, as I said, yeah, so we have to like to focus on certain things, but basically we'll go through a journey to understand why do Palestinians have a Fiction Council. Oh, sorry. I'm going to start with a statement. So basically, you expected me to start with a statement, or I'm expected to start with a statement about genocide. But I'd rather start with something more optimistic. It's not that it's not that it's better, but I like to start with this. If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. It's true. This is what Albert Einstein said. This is not about fairy tales. It's about future. Because imagination was always related to science. It was always related to vision, always related to emotional intelligence. How accepting the other starts with how emotional intelligent person you are. So starting with imagination, starting with fairy tales that actually boosts your imagination by all means, not because you want to be a person filled with fantasy or unreal person or whatever namings our community might address us, but also that would also get for you to understand why we have a Fiction Council. Why haven't I mentioned anything about genocide? Because we've already witnessed what genocide looks like. I don't know if you all watch the news. I don't know if you all, by all means, scroll down into Palestinian accounts on Instagram watching what is actually happening to the Palestinians. And I started also asking myself, what am I doing here? Until I met an Uber driver here in California. He, and I quote, what do you think the solution is, Jonathan, the Uber driver? Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit, because living overseas, living across oceans, doesn't actually give you the right to imagine a solution. It's not that simple. It's just not that, okay, I'm on an Uber ride, going from one place to another. I'm a visitor to the city, to the state. And since the moment the Uber driver realizes that I'm a Palestinian, his first existential question was, what do you think the solution is? Okay. I told him one thing, it's just, I don't have an opinion at 7:30 in the morning. Can we just postpone that maybe later on, if we ever met ever again? And we don't have that privilege of isolating ourselves from the rest of the world, because we can't do that. You can just keep on, isolate yourself from whatever is surrounding you. I don't want to know about what's happening in the Middle East. I don't want to know about what's happening in North Africa. You, sitting here, have the choice. We don't. So globalization, or knowing or understanding or learning about what globalization is, what is the background of your own culture and heritage, and doing this beautiful cultural exchange, understanding about what is this all about? Why are they all fighting about this one religious place? It's not an Uber question about finding a solution. It's not about finding a solution. It's not about naming it a conflict, a war, whatever. I asked a Gazan friend, a visual artist. I told her if I could carry on a statement of yours with me to the United States and present it. And this was her answer. Nothing. To tell you what? That the world doesn't care. I'm not circulating, don't get me wrong. I'm not circulating by all means. I know that people care, but there's nothing coming handy. There's nothing to be done. How can I help them? I don't know. Maybe spread the word? So she's like, no, I don't have any statement. Throughout this journey, past journey, hopefully it's going to be fast, we're going to be talking about 3 topics related to Palestinian intangible heritage specifically. It's about reclaiming, documenting, and reviving. The first thing about reclaiming is research, and more research. This is what I understood throughout my journey of documentation and researching my own heritage by all means. The second one is documenting, and I'll get to something very interesting in a bit. Bear with me. The other thing is documenting. We'll talk about collecting, processing, and restoration, and then reviving. Why? Why do we want to revive ancient legends? Why do we want to revive marginalized legends? Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to revive legends of our ancestors? And reclaiming, I'm gonna jump in something really interesting. I don't know if I don't know if many of you had come across this. We're gonna travel on my flying carpet from the United States across Europe to the Middle East. And I'm gonna start with the American, very so famous pop culture, zombies, right? Do you know the origins of the zombie? Does anybody know the origins of the zombies? Where did they come from?
Haitian mythology. Haitian mythology.
Ancient mythology. Well, if you look at the screen over here, the zombies refer like were originally called Nzambi, starting with an N. All right. So Nzambi Mbongo was recorded as the name of a god of the Congo people as early as the early 16th century by Portuguese who visited the kingdom of Congo. Actually, they weren't visiting. They were enslaving for, the new settlements. So they were actually taking their people from their own, displacing people from their own homeland and taking them to the new settlements to work for, building their own kingdom, for their own, civilization, for their own, new world. So there, there was a very beautiful story. You can look it up. Then it turned into a zombie pop culture related to undead. Then I realized that it's really, really interesting because it is related to a very Caribbean ritual about, trying to take yourself out of the harsh circumstances of slavery. They just can't take it anymore. So they were looking for anything that actually, okay, master, you want whatever you want. I'm going to do everything you want. I just need to be senseless. So they were like a walking dead. A visiting American went to the Caribbean and he was fascinated by the culture or the rituals that were taken or held at the Caribbean back then. And he was like, very interesting. See, I know that you're familiar with The Night of the Living Dead. You're familiar with the movie, right? You've all watched it, right? It's a very interesting American pop culture movie, right? George A. Romeo, who is referred to as the godfather of zombies, said, I never called our zombies. We thought of them as ghouls. Do you know what the word ghouls refers to? Have you?
Ghosts?
Ghosts?
Yeah.
Close, but you want more something like
I don't know my horror stuff.
flesh eating monsters.
Yeah.
Guess where did they take that from? Yes, Arabs. Ghouls are an Arabic term for jinn, which are paranormal creatures that roam in the cemeteries, roam in the darkness, and we have plenty of stories related to the ghouls. Like they're our trademark. So this culture was inspired by. So why did I mention this? Just to give you an example about the influence other cultures might have on your own. So as Americans, when you say, okay, there's a movie about a zombie apocalypse. Maybe it's time to think about, the enslaved people that were in the Caribbean and they wouldn't take it anymore. It's been, I know I'm not dramatizing this. I don't want to make a drama out of it, but it's worth to think about it for a while. Because it's not an authentic invention. It's not an authentic American invention. So you might want to think about that. So remember the flying carpet? let's go to Europe. We're going to be landing in England. You're all familiar with Shakespeare, right?
Mhm.
You might have borrowed some of the Arabic legends as well. So here we have the witches told Macbeth to beware, Macduff, that no man born of woman would be able to harm him, and that he would remain unvanquished until Birnam Wood came to Dussenon. Dussenon as a way to disguise. So the troops, the knights of Macduff took brought branches of the forest to Dussenon as a way to disguise his army, ultimately killing Macbeth. There is that actually happened in between the 17th century. In Arabia, 110 BCE, there was a famous woman. She was called Zarqa al-Yamama. She was a priestess. She was a witch. She was a sorcerer. In her story, the troops of Hassan al-Himyari, which is the king that actually killed all of her tribe, eventually reached her tribe and killed everyone. But before that, Zarqa noticed what was going on and alerted her tribe that the trees were moving towards them. To her dismay, members of her tribe, see, did you see that? Did you see the link? Growing branches, walking forests. Well, you should have given her a credit, Shakespeare. She was the first one to see. France. So we're in England. We're going to France now. So here is something really interesting. You've all heard about the Arabian Nights, 1001 Nights. Are you familiar with the term? Are you familiar with the piece of literature? Beautiful, isn't it? Right? So Antoine Galland, he's a French Orientalist. He came to the Middle East and he's an Orientalist. Actually, he had fetishes as well as he was fantasizing a lot of things. He read this piece of literature. He learned Arabic. He read this piece of literature and he translated it from Arabic to French, and then it spread across the world. Okay. The other day, it's not the other day. It's just 3 years ago. I received a message from an American. He considers himself or addresses himself as a paranormal researcher. What I want to tell you from all of this, that he's an enlightened American paranormal researcher that gave credit to the original people, that Galland was actually misfiguring the idea of ghouls. Because we have classical and we have folklore ghouls. So both of them are really, really interesting to know about. I'm a specialist in ghouls. That's why I'm saying that. Metaphorically, I don't do any rituals of Jim. So he said, I'm aware our American concept of ghouls is a misrepresentation created by Antoine Galland. So he's an Orientalist. So when you want to search about ghouls, would you go to an Orientalist? Because, they're closer to European, they might understand our perspective by all means. Or would you go to the indigenous people and ask them? So I wouldn't, let's say, for instance, are you familiar with a Mexican legend, La Llorona? Right? Would you listen about the legend of the Llorona of a French guy, Danish, German? That wouldn't make any sense. If you want to study about the Yorona and her story, because it has virgins to it. Like, yeah, she didn't, she drowned her kids, her soul was doomed to stay on earth because what she has done and all that. Do you know that there are a beautiful pattern in comparative mythology between the Yorona and some Arab mythical creatures? Did you know that? Interesting, right? We'll get to that. Denmark. In the morning, she was asked how she had slept. Oh, very badly, she said. I have scarcely closed my eyes all night. Heaven only knows what was in the bed, but was laying on something hard, so that I am black and blue all over my body. It's horrible. What folk tale is that? A princess that couldn't sleep. Not Sleeping Beauty. Princess and the Bee. Thank you. So Princess and the Bee, everybody knows Princess and the Bee, right? But nobody knows An-Nadira. Do you know An-Nadira? No, of course not. Of course you don't. Because Christian Hans Andersen didn't give credit to the original legend that was taken from. So An-Nadira, that happens in Hatra in Iraq, 2nd or 3rd century BC. What happened is, during the wedding night, she was unable to sleep for hours, turned restlessly on her couch, soft though it was. In the morning, Shapur, well, this is where it gets interesting. It's related to a historical event where Shapur is assassinate emperor that conquered this Arab kingdom in Hadran. So his daughter was a traitor, and she helped Shapur conquer her father's kingdom. So in exchange of marrying her and becoming the queen of all queens. Sounds like Game of Thrones, right? So she wanted to be the queen of all queens, so she became the traitor princess. Discovered in a fold of her belly, she was a bit chubby. A fold of her belly, the cause of her sleeplessness, a myrtle leaf which had lodged there. According to another version, the leaf was found under the cushions. Where? Under the cushions, the mattresses. Remember Princess and the Bee? This is centuries ago. This is an old Arab legend. But do the Arabs have to say anything about it? Do they have a say in it? That's why we're reclaiming. That's why we have to reclaim our narrative. This is our legend. But you all knew Princess and the Bee, but you didn't know An-Nadira. So the writer, I'm writing the source as well, if you're interested, to look it up, An-Nadira. So the writer actually made the comparison. At the end of the text, he said, the theme of this legend is repeated in a fairy story by Hans Andersen. So that is for reclaiming, documenting. Palestinians were always restlessly are documenting intangible, material, heritage, whatsoever, and trying to promote it by all creative means possible, whether in arts, literature, performance, whatsoever. What you have on the screen now is like a collection of books about, Palestinian embroidery, folk tales, daily lives, documentation of daily lives. comics. This one is about folktales and embroidery over there, and other beautiful documentation and reflection. I did my own. This is my book, actually. It was published in 2022 about documenting paranormal encounters from the old city of Jerusalem as an independent category. We've reached to this point where we document every aspect of our lives because there's a constant fear that there will be, from the constant war on our identity. That's the least I could say. So then our identity stands still. So we have to document and claim it as ours before, you know, the occupation comes in and it's like, yeah, that's ours. We've been here first. No. Simply. No. So if somebody has any questions about this book, we'll get to that at the end. Because it's a really interesting topic, whomever is interested in documenting, especially paranormal encounters as a future canon. This is what I'm doing. I'm not only doing this for fun, I'm also adding to it the aspect of turning these documentation into our future canon. Like, let's say we have our own folk tales now, but let's say 200 years from now, I'm changing these stories into our 200 years from now folk tales, which is going to be interesting. I'm not only doing that, I'm studying patterns between our own paranormal encounters and other nations, other people across the world. And it's really interesting, believe me, when you do this comparison or exchange, I don't want to call it comparison. I would like for this to be an interactive act. When you do these sort of interactive discussions, you learn, you gain knowledge, you become aware of, you know, people's heritage. Where did that come from? Not because I think that's a harsh thing. Just understanding that where did that come from will give you the space and the audacity to tolerate others' cultures. Reviving. Why are we reviving? Remember why? There are plenty of reasons why we have a call to action. I'm gonna read you some quotes, all the recent ones, at the beginning of the genocide in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the Israel's prime minister, said, remember what the Amalek has done. I would highly recommend, if you're interested in understanding what the Amaleks are, there is a beautiful link here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to open it. Where is the presentation? Can you?
2024 year. Utility vehicle of it.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting theology blogging. It's about the theology blogging. It's really interesting. I could pass it on to your lecturer, and she could share it with you if you're interested to know why are they using Old Testament. Yes.
He's quoting Deuteronomy and also his interpretation of the Talmud, which they don't like talking about.
Thank you. But there are also very interesting, yeah, I could have, yeah, I could explain, but I'm afraid we're gonna run out of time, that's why. But that might trigger, that might be intriguing for some, okay, to look what we're talking about. Yoav Gallant, who is Israel's defense minister, we're fighting human animals. So you see the level of dehumanization of Palestinians that is becoming epidemic within, you know, the Israeli leadership. Dan Gillerman, former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, said, I'm puzzled by the concern the world is showing for these horrible, inhumane animals. Mordechai Keder said, was an Israeli scholar, equating them to animals is an insult to animals. So I don't see if that is not a serious call to action. So when we start reviving, the first thing that popped into my mind is this logo. Anybody familiar with this logo? That's the logo of the municipality of Gaza before it was wiped out. It represents, do you see the bird? It's like it's not so well illustrated, but it's there. It represents the phoenix. Because Gaza was constantly through wars, and the Gazans considered the phoenix is their symbol because of the multiple wars that they've faced and still facing until they've reached to the genocide. But they still have hope that they will rise from ashes once again. There are another pleasant, a very beautiful, this is the Gaza. It says Baladiyat Gaza or Gaza municipality, but you can relate now to the phoenix. And by the way, we have in Arabic legends, we have an independent creature called al-Anqa, which is the long-necked bird. So, you know.
The long neck.
No, no. Yeah, long neck. Jet lag. So, and then there's another very interesting logo also in Deir al-Balah. Are you familiar with these cities? No. Well, yeah, there are massacres every single day. Every single day, at least 100 people lose their lives in these cities, at least. Sometimes this number would hit 250, 240 people. Imagine that. So I will come to this beautiful legend in a bit related to Deir al-Balah city. So the first question that might also pop to your mind, what does imagination, what could imagination do? Like in genocide, people are dying, people are losing their lives. And this is, some people go like, nothing, there's nothing we can do. This is what imagination could do in times of genocide. Completely blank, just wait until we die. Until we're wiped out, just wait. But we Palestinians do not. We do not. We do not, surrender easily. Just from a cultural, artistic, coming from a visual arts background, by all means, by all creative means possible to revive the legends, at least, the legends and the narrative of the cities that were wiped out. But still hope. People also might ask, how did the Palestinians' imagination look like before 1948? Are you familiar with the state?
The incorporation of the transfer of the British Mandate of Palestine to the nation of Israel.
Thank you. And it's also called the Nakba. Did you hear the word Nakba before? Catastrophe. It literally means catastrophe. Anyways, the Palestinians, as you can see, that's a wonder box. And the picture over here, that's a wonder box. It was imported or brought to Palestine from Persia, from Iran. And, you know, because there was a cultural exchange back then. There was trades, there were people moving without boundaries, without imaginative boundaries drawn by sex people. So anyways, so that's, having said so, our imagination was in our faith, in our legends, superstitions, paranormal, cultural exchange, whatever you want. It's all there. We have that. There are two things that are actually capturing my attention also into exposing or presenting the Palestinian imagination. This particular picture, you might say that, oh, this is a Palestinian gathering. Is it a wedding? Because there's a bride over here. This is a Palestinian bride. Beautiful, isn't she? This is a Palestinian bride, but this one is not a wedding. This one, if you can read, a large crowd attends an open-air cinema. When? 1940. We had an open-air cinema.
I did not know that. And I'm from
So we had an open-air cinema. We were enjoying our lives. This is how our traditional, beautiful dress looked like. It was part of our culture as well. We loved life. And we loved our own culture. And we invested in it. Why did I mention the Palestinian thobe or traditional dress as well? Because it's not a 200 years, nor 3 or 4 or 500 years. It's thousands of years. It also, some studies indicate that the Palestinian thobe had symbols from the Canaanites or the Canaanite priests or priestesses that actually would protect, as you know, a talisman. So every single shape and pattern would represent a meaning. It's not a random, beautiful, embroidery. It represents symbols, and these symbols were inherited from thousands of years. Okay. Why did I mention this? Okay, I have a great attribute to the Palestinian grandmothers that actually preserved our folk tales for so many generations before documentation, or like literal documentation. They were walking these fallahi or farmer women. They were walking by where I live, like somewhere close. I don't know where exactly, but where I come from. So this is a very dear picture to me. It's like about how hardworking Palestinian farmers were. In addition to hardworking, they were preserving our intangible heritage. Let me share a story with you. There is a verse in the Quran. The second one below, it's about, the resurrection day, the judgment day. And that verse, it mentions the sky first, and then the following verse reads, with the angels on its sides, on that day, 8 mighty angels will bear the throne of your Lord above them. Me and my father were visiting a grand mosque in Abu Dhabi in 2013. And he saw a dome, sitting on 8 pillars. The first thing that came to his mind is this verse. The 8 angels holding the dome. That reminded me of Dome of the Rock. Are you familiar with Dome of the Rock? No? Let's Al-Aqsa Mosque. Who's familiar? If you're familiar, raise your hand.
But that's not Al-Aqsa.
That's part of Al-Aqsa. Who's familiar with this monumental piece of architecture? 4? Okay, you might want to research that. People are dying for this. So, if you can see, this is how it looks like. Can you see the plan? That's an octagonal shape, right? How many columns are, the first, for the first round? Can you count them? 8. So what I'm referring to is that we're this inspired by our own heritage, by our own culture, that reflects on our arts and architecture as well. So the sky is like a dome, and the pillars are the angels, the 8 angels that were mentioned in the verse. So I really wanted to share this with you so that you can also get a sense of that everything refers to everything or anything in our own heritage. That's another symbol of reusing art, not only architecture, but later on, that's Mustafa Al-Hallaj. He's a Palestinian artist that actually worked in legends as well. But as you can see, there are elements of destruction of our legends. Another sample, Juliana Serafim. You wouldn't guess that she's a Palestinian, right? Would you? No. You'd go like, yeah, she's a surrealist. We're part of Europe. She's from. Is she related to Dali? Does she know Dali? Do you guys know Dali? Salvador Dali. Yeah. Right.
So if they don't know how to do something.
So, but that's a beautiful piece, right? It is, right? No? Anyhow, what about the future? So we talked about before. Sure. These are very interesting 2 books. If you're ever interested in reading about, Palestinian writers writing about science fiction, these 2 books would actually help you get a sense of where we're at and where our anticipation.
What is the title on the second one?
Rewilding Ramallah. Rewilding Ramallah. Fiction Council. The future. This is where I decided to put the Fiction Council. So what is the Fiction Council? The Fiction Council, I'm going to simplify it for you. The Fiction Council is a mediator between the community and our intangible heritage of superstitions, mythology, legends, whatsoever. What we do is, okay, we've got this legend. It dates back to 1,000 years. We want to make it more appealing. So we push it into the Fiction Council, and we chose the best creative mean possible. And then we reframe it and put it to the community once again, so that they get more attached to their own intangible heritage. The Fiction Council is a documentation place. As I said, the book that I told you about, the red one, which is my book, it was published by the Fiction Council. We try our best to document, and like I've talked paranormal, but you can document whatever you want, because we're working with imagination in the first place. So this would add to our cart or basket. The Fiction Council is a platform for our imagination. So if you have a crazy idea, a weird idea, not accepted idea, and you want to find a place who actually would adopt such crazy idea, you've got the Fiction Council. Also, when the Fiction Council was established in 2015, we adopted about 12 highly imaginative or fanciful children. Now they're in universities. But back then, they were bullied, they were judged for their imagination. So what we did is a model of a haven or a safe place to protect our imagination. You could practice your imagination without the fear of being judged, mocked, or bullied. So the Fiction Council is there for you. I've received calls and 911, what is your emergency? So moms were calling me because they cannot tame their children's imagination. It's just uncanny. I can't deal with his monsters. I can't. So they told me to contact the Fiction Council. So the Fiction Council was there in case, of an imaginative emergency. By the way, if you've noticed, we have our own banners, right? And we have our own creature. This is our logo, by the way. You can see over here. This one is a comic one. Don't take it seriously. These are the serious ones that you can see on the banner, or you can see on my my T-shirt.
And what is this creature?
This creature, yes, this creature is called Sedanil. Sedanil is a mythical creature that I've created. As you can see, it represents that imagination comes from the sky, from the sea, from the wilderness, and it's so wild. And the humans are the mediators of these all, lands, wilderness, sea, and sky. And the human is the mediator. In Arabic, when we say this horse is wild, we go, when we say something wild, we go jamih. Jamih only refers to horses, because sometimes horses you cannot control. Uncontrollable horses. So this is why we chose the head of the horse, and he's holding a brush and a book. We're working visuals, we're working words, we're working literary aspects. So Sadanil, Sadin is the protector and servant of the holy place in Arabic. And El is a Semite name. So he's a Semite legendary creature, because Arabs are Semites, by the way.
Do you have the name written somewhere?
7. I can write it down. It might be hard to write it down.
I know we can afford,
That's fine, it's fine.
Yeah,
I
we can type it
Yeah,
later.
we can type it later, yes. Yeah, we're running out of time. Yeah, what the Fiction Council did as well. So we will remember when I said it's gonna be blank on the board? Like what are we going to do in terms of genocide? So the Fiction Council was like, if I wasn't for my people in adversity, they don't need me in prosperity. As simple as that. So what we did is we created something called Imagination Care Unit. That people could actually, we could set collective sessions for people that are affected as a second-degree trauma from the war or the genocide that is occurring and still unfolding in Gaza. So they were like some sort of a collective healing through imagination and visual arts. The other one is Masks and Mirrors. It is a stress relieving because, you know, in Jerusalem, youth are like Palestinians, especially, they're financially challenged. They go through a lot, plenty of events, security events, plenty of checkpoints. You know, life is not hard. The life is not simple in Jerusalem by all means, by all aspects. It's a very, very difficult city to live in. So the least we could do is try to hold groups or workshops of stress relief and moral support, emotional and moral support. That's what we can do. The least we can do. What we did also is that we gathered as many legends related to the city of Gaza, and we wanted people to know them. The least you could do in this edgicide, genocide, whatever you name it, wiping out of humanity, displacement. We tried our best to mention these, or at least to honor these legends related to the city, because they were carpet bombing every single archaeological site in Gaza. So there were no archaeological places, nothing. So it might be interesting to you. Have you heard of the name Samson? Right? Samson, you've heard the name Samson, right? Do you know the legend of Samson? Samson, Delilah?
I have heard about it and how Delilah tricked him into cutting his hair.
Yes. Well, do you know where he died?
Some kind of temple.
Yes. That is Dagon's temple in Gaza.
I guess the idea blew it up.
Well, yeah, he was. It is claimed that he was the first to commit suicide. He was a suicidal. But the thing is, the very interesting thing is how legends are now collected to place. And from my own experience, I love connecting legends to place, to land. This is how we've got biblical colonialism. But on the other side, it's just, it preserves your narrative of the place. Whether it goes by your standards, it goes by your own narrative that you've been raised with, but it's still there. You have to have a link to the land. And this is what we try to do. Remember there in Balah, the logo, the second logo on the left, when I told you about? It's, I don't know if we have time. And we'll, let me finish. And if we have time, I'll tell you the legend. And if we don't, maybe, we'll pass it on by all means. 10 minutes left. Yeah.
Including questions, and we already have questions on the chat.
Ah, okay.
So maybe quickly, if you.
Yeah. So other aspect, we've talking ancient legends, now we're talking Canaanites. We're having also virtual events that are actually glorifying the Canaanite legends and Phoenician Canaanite legends. The legend data is I love this. It is an imaginary device that I created. We had set of lectures about, how can we build a legend data, which is a legend generator that actually puts on energy into marginalized or dying legends. So unfortunately, we don't have the time to talk about that. Remember when Jonathan, the Uber driver, once again, what do you think the solution is? I'm going to leave it an open existential question, and time will answer that. Yeah, by the way, I would like to add to that it is okay not to have an opinion in anything, and especially in that. I mean, and so, yeah, I'm sorry, jet lag, and I'm going back. So, Jonathan, the Uber driver, some Uber drivers just ask existential questions. It's like they're talkative, right? I didn't know. Is it common? No.
Some of them because they want to have higher incomes.
Maybe they want information.
Yeah.
Perceived as.
Yeah, the ones that are they ask these questions. Anyway. I really wanted to share also pictures, deer pictures that I've collected also from. These pictures are from Gaza. They have imagination, right? They have dreams. How beautiful their pictures are. Flowers, strawberries. By the way, this is Rafat Al-Arir. He was
about to ask.
Yes, he's Rafat Al-Arir. We love Gaza strawberry, and we used to wait from them from a season to season, from year to year.
Could you introduce Rafat Al-Arir? It's important.
Rafat Al-Arir is a very highly knowledgeable and intellectual Palestinian professor. Was martyred, was killed with his family in a bombing in Gaza. And he was famous for, if I must die, you must live to tell my story. So, yeah, we have imagination, we have ambition, we have life. Humans. We're humans. Thank you. Thank you. One last thing. I would like to end with one last thing. If anybody asks you, do Palestinians have an imagination? You could simply answer them with, Palestinians have a fiction council. So thank you very much.
I think we have about 10 minutes. We can open it up for questions. I know Professor Mufta said we have some questions in the chat as well.
Yes,
But
and
if
those,
folks in the audience also have questions, raise your hand and hopefully we can get to a
we'll
few.
take one from here and one from.
Sure.
We'll start with the audience here, because they have been very patient.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being so patient, yeah.
And then we'll take the question from.
I think we could probably do 2 or 3. So maybe if there's anyone in the
Okay,
audience.
I'll start with this one until they get ready. Curious if there are Arabic folk tales about mermaids.
Definitely. Yes, but I could, yeah, well, if somebody wants to contact us, even after this lecture, this is our Instagram account. If you would like to follow us and maybe have further questions, see what else we can do or we're doing. We're actually enjoying this tour where called Palestine has a fiction council in the US. So yes, feel free to ask about the mermaids. Yes, we have plenty in Arabic legends about mermaids. Yeah, and folk tales. Oh, well, I could recall 5.
Can you mention maybe a couple of those?
في الإنسان الماء. That's في القزويني.
So, do you want me to translate?
Oh yeah. There are several questions. Yeah, I can't recall the whole legend, but I have to.
So إنسان الماء is water person?
What are humans?
Or water human? إنسان الماء,
إنسان الماء.
water human.
Insan is human. Ma is water.
Okay, let's take a question from the.
Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, go ahead.
You have Baba Yaga. Is there
That's a Russian. Cheap Russian, Slavic. Thank you. But Russians claim to be, their own. I'm sorry if you if that. Baba Yaga, yes. But yeah, Baba Yaga. You've got the Baba Yaga. Do you have any comment about the Baba Yaga? Oh, by the way,
is there an Arab comparison or is there an Arab root?
By the way, who doesn't know the Baba Yaga? It's a Slavic. It's a combination of old witch that lives in a hut that has chicken legs and is surrounded by a fence of human bones. So, yeah, she might be a ghoul, by the way. So yeah, yes, I'm familiar with the Baba Yaga. Definitely, it's a beautiful folk creature.
I want to ask a question. Do you have a picture of Al-Amura?
I actually do, but it's on my computer. Maybe I can send it to you later on. But I have illustrated Al-Amura also in my book. So
Can
she's
you
there.
tell them what Al-Amura is?
Al-Amura is
Folks, we still have 7 minutes, so let's kind of quiet down and pay attention up here.
Al-Amura is a Palestinian, very well known. She's the queen of terror in some regions, which she's represented as a feminine figure that is it might be all white clothed or all black clothed. She might be tall. She might be very tiny, and she could stretch, and she could stretch vertically. Horizontally and vertically. And sometimes she could imitate people's voices to trick you, or she could actually trick you without imitating anybody. She just want to have fun.
I remember the
Stretching, yes.
Vertical, yes, I remember that.
Any other questions?
There are a lot of fairy tales that when I was young, I grew up in Jerusalem, Palestine. And they were made into movies at Disney, like Snow White.
Yes,
We used to call it Jbin.
Spain, yes.
Yeah, my grandmother, she used to tell us the story about Jbina, Jbina means cheese. She's as white.
Yeah, she's as white as cheese.
She's as white as cheese. And similar story, there's a lot of, it's an international, but there's a lot of Palestinian fairy
Adaptation,
tales
yes.
that has been told for hundreds of years. And they are related to some of the Disney movies that when I came here, I started seeing it. I said,
Yeah.
oh, this is Jbin. Oh, this is the wolf, the seven pigs and the wolf.
Yes,
They do,
yeah, they do it,
all
yes.
this we learned when we were young. So there has been a culture, Palestinian culture, for thousands of years with history, fairy tales, art, lots of artists, lots of people who very civilized. And the myth that we've been told many times that there's a land with no people and people with no land. That was a big lie. There were people civilized that lived there for thousands of years, and they were kicked out of their home. And now this is the result of what's going on now. This is my opinion.
Thank you so much. And this is why I'm here. I'm traveling all the way from Jerusalem, Palestine to tell you some of our narrative, to educate you. The least I could do is to tell you whenever you go, like, okay, there was this guy from Jerusalem that came all the way to tell us about, fairy tales and Palestinian fairy tales. And
It is very difficult for us to work against the dehumanization.
dehumanization,
We
yes.
all want to tell everybody that we are humans
Yeah,
and we deserve to live just like everybody else.
exactly.
And somebody came and took the land and said, there's a fairy tale says that God gave us this land. And but we lived there for thousands of years, starting from the Canaanites.
Yeah, Canaanites, yes.
I mean, it is sad to see what's going
If
on.
I want to start with the Canaanite legends, oh my God, you wouldn't wait. You wouldn't wait, you just want to go. So, yeah.
Do you like tell stories, like tell the stories in like your social media?
Yes, there are plenty of stories. You can read the full stories. Instagram translation is bad, but we're working on making a proper translation in English in the future. But you can enjoy, there are plenty of legends that you can translate and read. Like the least you could do is the structure, and maybe you can see an English equivalent when you Google the legend itself.
I'm an Arabic major, so I'm like learning a lot of Arabic, but I still can't like understand a lot of stuff.
No, don't go legends now. Don't go legends in Arabic now. Just let the language rests, and then you hit old Arabic legends. Don't do that now. No. Just enjoy the simple translation for now, and enjoy the culture with some Arabic, and then when you're like advanced in the language, you might want to expose yourself into old Arabic legends, and we can help you with that happily. Okay.